Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to A Cup of Hope with Hope Against Trafficking and the Michigan Abolitionist Project. Today, during our Cup of Hope episode, you'll have the opportunity to submit questions to our panel by typing your questions into the comments of the live video wherever you're watching, whether it's Facebook or YouTube. We'll collect these and address them during our session. Please welcome today's panelists. We have Hannah McPeak, Education Director for Hope Against Trafficking, and Emily Johnson, Program Coordinator at the Michigan Abolitionist Project. And today they are joined by our special guest panelist who had joined us in October for Cup of Hope, Robin Batten. She's originally from Birmingham, Alabama, and grew up in Detroit. She graduated from Wayne State University, and her work history includes Wayne State University Library System, foster care licensing, residential treatment for teen girls, and college admission at ITT. Robin is the Cyber Safety and Wellness and Resilience Program Manager with Washtenaw Area Council for Children. WACC is a nonprofit that provides prevention education in Washtenaw County. And in addition to working for WACC, Robin also is on Talk Early, Talk Often, which focuses on educating parents on talking to their teens about sex. On average, Robin speaks with 8,000 to 10,000 students and adults annually on ways to keep safe on the internet. Thank you guys very much. I will go ahead and turn it over to our panelists.
Oh, I think I should. Like, hello. Well, I am so excited to have Robin, and obviously Emily and I both are very happy to have you here to join us for this episode of Cup of Hope. This month, we're going to be talking about OnlyFans. And, you know, with unemployment rates sort of skyrocketing, there's no question that, you know, COVID has impacted our economy. You know, and as a result, more and more people are turning to OnlyFans as sort of an extra source of income, as an opportunity to connect, as an opportunity to do something that'll allow them to earn income. And it's pretty quick and easy. A lot of people think. And so it's a topic that we really need to engage in. We're going to talk about what OnlyFans is. We're going to talk about what people think it is, and what ways, you know, does sexual objectification impact our society. We're going to talk about, you know, and explore these questions and learn ways to protect ourselves as well as empower others while navigating this pretty intense digital age.
That's right. Thank you, Hannah. Yeah, thanks, Robin, for being here. We are so excited. We love having you with us.
Thanks for inviting me. I love being here.
Yeah, so obviously COVID-19 has impacted our economy like crazy. So it's been shown that as the pandemic continues, more and more people are turning to OnlyFans as an extra source of income. In March of 2020, so almost a year ago now, OnlyFans had 26 million registered users and just over 350,000 total content creators. By August, so it's within like 6 months time frame or so, the total amount of user and creator accounts had nearly doubled, with more than 50 million total registered users and some 700,000 content creators. As of December of last month, well, 2 months ago now, OnlyFans is said to have more than 1 million creators on the platform. So these are people who are creating content and putting out there for people to subscribe to. I mean, not to mention, and I know we mentioned this before, just pornography sites in general have seen an increase in users, consumers. So because everybody's on their computers, so why not just create an account to this and subscribe to this? And so yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about what is OnlyFans specifically and the dangers that might exist within it. Robin, could you tell us a little more, just generally, what is OnlyFans? What is this website?
Yeah, so OnlyFans is a a social media platform. It's set up where people can create content and get paid for it. It has drawn a lot of attention during this time, as you said, Emily. You gave us those numbers, and that's huge. So a lot of people are on it creating content in order to make money, because we have the issue of, people losing their jobs during COVID, jobs shutting down. We talked a little earlier about the nightclubs being closed down, right? So now these nightclub workers, strippers, need a place to make money. So it's giving them the opportunity to do that. And I guess what we need to focus on is that it's not just like any other social media website. It's not there just for that purpose, that other people get on there to create content that's positive, just like any other website. They're having exercise videos, they're cooking, or, whatever the case may be, whatever they want to promote, they can make money doing that.
Okay.
The ticker here is that because OnlyFans have, a very relaxed policy. Like you can come on here, you can do these porn videos, and we're totally cool with that, right? And you can make money doing it, or dancing, or whatever the case may be. So that is the gist of what OnlyFans is.
So people take videos of themselves or pictures.
Pictures.
And then people subscribe to your content. They pay to receive your content. So like you said, it's not all pornography. Some people are doing cooking lessons, exercise lessons, art lessons. You can do all kinds of things on there that anyone would want to subscribe to. But this really became used for pornography, the creation of pornography. I found an article that said, when it was founded in 2016, OnlyFans was originally intended to give fans exclusive access to their favorite creators based on paid subscriptions. It came to be associated with digital sex work because it allows explicit content like nudity. Other platforms like Instagram, Tumblr have stricter content policies. You can't just be posting nudity on your Instagram, obviously. And you don't usually have subscribers with Instagram. So this became primarily used as a porn site now because of those lack. And
that whole subscription deal. And I'm hearing that Facebook and Instagram, they have filtered out sexual content, pictures and videos. It's just no longer allowed there. So I'm thinking that a lot of people who put some of their content on Instagram had a lot of followers. Now they're jumping onto OnlyFans, because there's a connection there, between the two sites, the two platforms.
Okay, so who are the kinds of people that have OnlyFans accounts? Because I've heard that like celebrities will sometimes have an OnlyFans account. I know youth will subscribe to their favorite celebrities to receive exclusive, and sometimes it's not always pornographic, but just to receive their exclusive content. And we see a lot of, people in their 20s and 30s either creating content or subscribing to content. What is like the actual age limit for how old do you have to be to have an OnlyFans?
I think 18, because that's the adult legal age, right? Under 18, that's child pornography or child exploitation. So they wouldn't have it there younger than that.
It's my understanding, though, that youth still find a way around that to create an account and create content even.
Yeah, and they always find a way. If they're interested, they will. I talk to a lot of young people, as was mentioned in the intro, and they're aware of OnlyFans. I have a 17-year-old. He's not using it, so he say, but he was aware of it. I asked him, have you heard of OnlyFans? And he's like, yeah, but I've never been on the site, sort of deal. But he's aware. Most young people are.
Yes, but like, why would you subscribe to pay for pornography though, when there's all these other websites?
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is like people are turning to this as like a quick and easy, I'm going to make some money, some fast cash. But are people really subscribing? Are they really making, as much money as it said to?
Well, maybe not everyone, I would think. But when you mention who's subscribing, think of those who will subscribe to porn sites.
Mhm.
But this gives them, it feels like it's more of a personal, like they can follow one individual and they're not getting all these different people that they may not be interested in and just keep switching screens or videos. So they got this one person, which I read somewhere where they felt like there was sort of like a connection, you know, that emotional connection to this one individual that they follow. So it's a little different, you know, from a regular porn site.
So you could actually contact the content creator and say, hey, could you do more videos like this? Hey, could you start doing something like this? Is that so you can, they can message you and you can, that's true, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I, you know, and I guess I was watching one video and the young lady said that she just gets up in the morning, dolls up, because she knows that certain people are going to be there waiting for her. So she have that fan base, she have those subscribers, and so she just get up because that's the job she's doing right now, you know, and that's her expectation for today. She have her camera ready, she gets camera ready. Yeah.
So yeah, and this also could be, some people call it camming, like you're a cam girl.
Yes.
That's a common term too. So, but I've heard from creators that they say it's one of the few porn sites where the women actually get paid for the explicit content that they're creating. Whereas and half the time on porn sites, you know, pornography can be made of you and you don't even realize that it's been put up on a porn site. And so with OnlyFans, sex workers or, you know, people creating this content say that they prefer OnlyFans because they're in control of that.
I have a question really quick. I don't know if you would know this, but for OnlyFans, if you were a content creator and you had, you know, let's say you had 5 subscribers, I mean, do you get the subscription fee as part of your pay, or is it just through tips, or like how does and that's a question that I don't think is like just published out there and probably not easy to find unless you're going to become a content creator, but like I'm sure there's agreements. Like that whole thing just seems somewhat.
Yeah, I need to look at that. And Emily probably have done a little bit more into how they're getting paid, but it sounds like they subscribe to OnlyFans and then they can follow. You know, they pay to follow certain people.
So they pay in addition to that subscription fee.
Yeah,
that kind of makes more sense.
Yeah, and then OnlyFans get 20% of whatever the content creator is making.
Right.
Wow.
So even though they may seemingly make more money or be in control of their money, they still have to pay a fee to OnlyFans to have an OnlyFans account. That's for content creators too. Yeah.
Okay.
I can see how it can empower someone who is already a exotic dancer, because what we're hearing is that they're not getting all of that money either. Like most of the money goes to the house, right?
Or they have to tip off the bouncer or, you know, the security guard. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe they feel like that they pay that one fee to, you know, OnlyFans, and then they get the rest. So it does feel like they have more control, if I could say
from
that.
the convenience of their home, they don't have to deal with anything or anything. But I mean, they still get messaged by people. I was watching this one video and this gal said that she'll get messages from guys asking to video her, like to be her camera guy. And she's like, you just have to ignore these guys. They're, you know, they usually have just other motives. And I mean, obviously, and then they want to cut in, have, you know, a piece of the money that you're making.
Yeah.
So that can become exploitive.
Okay. You had said something. I don't know. Well, it was Robin. I think, I don't remember now which one of you guys said this, but you said something that really stuck out to me. And that is, you know, the content creators can just do it from home. Do you think that gives that person that sense of false security?
It could. I don't know if that was one of my thoughts, is that can you find out where they live? You know, they're at home. You know, what I'm hearing is that a lot of them are not using their real names. so they can't like Google the person. So that is a way to protect themselves. I don't know if there's like, for, you to sign up for social media, there's email and your cell phone number can be exposed. So hopefully that they have those features in where they can hide that from the public, and that will eliminate some of that as well. So they won't know where they live, and it's a little different.
Unless you have someone who can hack, and because any photos or any videos that go on the internet, there's a footprint, and you can trace it all the way back to like the room in a building of where that video or that photograph was shot. So
which may be like location settings. Like is there?
And I think even if you turn them off, there's
still a tagging.
Yeah.
I think that there's a tagging on it, whether you kind of like it or not. But maybe it's really difficult. It's more difficult maybe if you have the privacy settings where you turn off the location. It's harder for people to get access, but I just feel like it could still be exposed. And
you can find it. You're right.
And even if you do use a different name, there's no way to 100% conceal your identity and stay anonymous forever. I've read, people becoming content creators, and they think like, oh, this is just something I'm going to keep on the hush. Like, I don't want my family to know. I don't want my friends to know. But eventually everyone does find out. And that's like something I just kept reading over and over and seeing, is that these women say, if you're considering it and thinking about the pros and cons, just keep in mind, that people will find out. And this is something that's probably going to follow you and stick with you for a while. Let's see.
I mean, and that's sort of the other conversation that sort of we didn't really talk about it beforehand, but that the fact that it follows you, and that like if you were to ever try to get a job, let's say even with the government, or step into a big leadership role, that could really follow you. The consequences can be pretty detrimental, even 20 years down the line. So those are just some of the realities and things to consider when you're maybe entering into this kind of a realm,
Absolutely. I also wanted to mention, like, a lot of people think that this is like a quick and easy, like, oh, I'm just doing this for my home. Like, but a lot of the people who, you have to create a fan base. Like, if you want to make significant money, you have to promote yourself. As with any other kind of online content creation, digital sex work is a nonstop hustle. Creators must front equipment costs, promote themselves across multiple platforms, develop and maintain relationships with their audience, and churn out new content all the time. People, you have to stay current and stay up, and so people are constantly watching something that you're keeping their interest. Maybe glamorous and can be lavish, but it's far from the laid-back lifestyle most assume it to be. So,
and we're talking about adult deciding to do this, right, and how to protect themselves. But I would like to just sort of think about, and we talked about this a little earlier, young people, because we know that young people are under the age of 18, which this becomes child pornography. And, they're getting on there for the same reason that the adults are getting on there, to make money. It's a quick and easy way. Maybe it can be, do it on the slide, on the down low, and no one will find out, hopefully, right? But they're there. And supposedly there's a way of telling that someone, they say they have software to tell if someone is underage or something like that, but they really can't tell. And people can use, like, they want to verify their age through ID, but I'm hearing that young people are using fake IDs to show that they are adults, so that they can fool people in that way. And sometimes there are adult women who look like teenagers. You guys know that, they're in their 20s. You're like, gosh, you're actually 16 years old. So how can you really tell, and there's some stories out there of 17-year-olds who have participated in this activity, and they're on that site making money. So.
And there's definitely a demand for it too. Like, I think some of the most popular trending phrases in Pornhub or, these websites, pornography websites, is young teen or teen doing this or young. Yeah, but it can definitely be dangerous for people under 18. And a commercial sex act is any sexual performance that's done in exchange for money. It doesn't always have to be money. It could be food, shelter, clothes, whatever. And so actually, if you're under the 18 performing commercial sex, that is considered human trafficking. I also wanted to mention, so obviously this is a crowded market. There's tons of users, tons of subscribers, tons of content creators. So it's becoming pretty crowded. And so I've read that content creators, in order for them to stand out, they have to create unique and different content, which of course you can get into some pretty bizarre stuff if we're talking about pornography. So buyers only want to pay for content that they can't get free elsewhere. And there's a lot of free stuff out there. So just keep that in mind that you have to appeal to these people who are actually going to be paying for your content, and they have access to a lot of free stuff. So how to keep your content unique and individual. One buyer or subscriber, I should say, commented, anyone can get your coochie, anyone can get boobs. You have to make sure that you are the person that they want.
So that raises the issue of this constant need to do things that are really not normal and oftentimes not healthy, and oftentimes, you're getting past what's okay.
Yeah,
I feel like where is that boundary drawn?
And when you read that, I just felt like that's just devaluing the female. It's just take away their values. Like, oh, anybody can get that. What are you going to do extra? So
absolutely,
that whole value in the female bodies and respect, that's so huge. It's just
absolutely.
So how far do you go?
Right. And that the people who are maybe making a lot of money here are doing things that most people would never, ever even imagine doing. So it's that whole progression over a period of time where you end up somewhere where you never dreamed you'd end up. And then there's sort of that point of no return. Like, how do you come back from that, and how do you redefine what's healthy and not? How do you redefine or re-clarify what those boundaries are for what's healthy and normal and appropriate? Like, those standards are completely sort of jacked up. I mean, then it interferes with your relationships. It interferes with your self-image. It interferes with your global sort of worldview. I mean, and sort of in the same way, when you talk about pornography, when you're watching pornography, it does in fact hurt you. It affects your ability to see and even engage in and have healthy relationships in your own personal life. I mean, there's like long-term effects of this kind of stuff.
But when you think about, some of these things, it's becoming so normalized. So if they're doing it in so many other places, why not hop on OnlyFans and do this? It just feels like, even when you're talking to kids about sexting and they're creating sexual content amongst each other, they'll say it's common. So it becomes normalized, like we're desensitized. It's just what we do is okay, but the long-term consequences are bigger than they can even think,
Like, you've become so unhooked, disconnected from the real hardcore issues, and you become so far from it, it's desensitized. Like, it's become sort of the new normal, which should never be the case for anybody, really.
Which makes it easier for a young person to say that it's okay, especially they lack resources. We already talked about COVID, but before COVID, there's a lot of young people who lack resources, and they're worried about where their next meal is going to come from, or worried about having clothing to wear to school and looking nice, what's supposed to be nice, right? You know, or just having other things that they need, shelter over their heads. This can be very appealing to them, an opportunity where they don't have to worry about that, especially if the money goes straight to them, you know, whether it's through PayPal or, you know, Cash App or whatever, however way they do it, you know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for runaway and homeless youth, especially like LGBTQ youth.
Yes.
I mean, in some cases, if they're living on the streets, their body is the only commodity that they have.
Surfers.
And so, and that, you know, that's very dangerous. But yeah, just to piggyback off what Hannah said, I mean, it can start out, because I've heard youth say like, oh, this guy said he would pay me $200 just to send him, you know, some dirty panties or something. And so like, yeah, it's gross. It's weird. You don't understand it. This guy,
but
like,
hey, if you want to,
seems harmless. Like, you know, I don't have to do anything. I just wear my underwear all day and then send it up in a package. But it can, like Hannah was saying, become a slippery slope. It starts blurring those lines of, you know, then you have guys asking you to do this and send this, and it does. It starts to, you know, consume your whole life, and those lines are very blurred. Of like, okay, now I'm just doing this what he says and doing this what he and sending this just for a paycheck, and you start to become desensitized to all these things, and yeah, where do you draw the line? Where does it stop?
You know, I read one guy said that he sort of went down as a subscriber, went down this rabbit hole. You know, just multiple videos. He was getting what he wanted, right? And so I'm thinking on the other end, the content creator, that they just kind of go down this rabbit hole, you know, because the cycle, you do the video, you get up in the morning, you doll up, you do the video and you're paid. You know, so it feels easy. You're in quarantine. You're not able to go out and do things, or maybe you lost your job. I can feel like they kind of go down a rabbit hole too.
Right, and the subscribers really do get connected to some of these. They really do, you know, form these attachments. You know, she said that she has, you know, regulars that wait for her every morning. And so some of these guys, like, it's almost like a virtual relationship.
Yeah.
And so then you're managing all these different relationships with people too. And so, yeah, that can get very tricky and you know, I've just heard time and time again from people that this is not for everybody, that you might be looking at this as like just a quick solution. But content creators, porn stars, they always say this is not for everybody. There's a lot that goes into it. It consumes your whole life. And I did want to mention real quick too, before I forget, that average earnings from OnlyFans, $180 a month. Most accounts take home less than $145 a month.
Wow.
There's too much out there. You have to get a significant following to make any money. And that, like, the top 3 people, you know, or 5 people, content creators, you see that like, wow, they're making so much money. It's because they've been working at it a long time. They promote themselves. They have, you know, several, you know, different accounts that they're posting this to. They have a lot goes into it.
You know, as you were talking, one of the things that came to my mind, we talk about grooming with online predators. And I wonder about a certain level of grooming, even on this particular platform, even though the content creators feel like they have some control over what's happening. However, is there someone in the background that's controlling the narrative that we don't know about? And they make it that grooming. You mentioned attachment. A lot of times predators make an emotional attachment. They do make an emotional attachment to their victim, you know, so they could be controlling and manipulating. You know, last time we talked about, what did we talk about? Sugar babies and sugar daddies. We don't know how much of this is a part of that. because we know there's videos online with girls looking very glamorous, and they have all their little nice little purses and jewelry, and saying that you can have this and this is how control it. But we don't know how much of that is being controlled by another person.
Absolutely. And
it's
even
this is not victimless.
Yes.
And one of the ways that OnlyFans kind of promotes itself is, hey, or the people that are like trying to get people to join and create content is, it's you have control as a sex worker. Like here, you have control, you get paid, but really, that's not exactly the truth.
The buyers
don't know.
And I mean, there's predators, traffickers, pimps, scouting all the time. And all they're looking for is someone who's insecure, looking for love, looking for affection, looking for validation. And unfortunately, a lot of young women, I mean, I think we all kind of struggle with that at some point. And so, yeah, traffickers, pimps, they can swoop in. They know exactly what to tell you, what you need to hear, what you want to hear. And they can create this false dream.
Yeah. And it's a crime of opportunity. If you think about it, every opportunity that they can get to a young person or anyone to victimize them, they are going to use it. And then if they're already doing it on other sites like Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and Reddit, Reddit came up in one of the girls' videos that is another connection, which young people have started leaving Reddit, but I know that a certain type of riskier young people who have more riskier behavior, they will stay on it. So if you think about how they reach out and they use those platforms, they're going to find a way to use OnlyFans, just like any other site. So it's a crime of opportunity.
So do we want to talk about, are there any other risks involved with this? Oh, okay. So subscribers can also take screenshots, video record. So there's been cases where, a subscriber, a buyer will screenshot it and, maybe they'll keep it for themselves. Maybe they'll post it on a different website. And so content creators have said that they find their content on other websites.
I believe
that. Not just the subscribers and the buyers that post these things. Some of these other porn websites scout OnlyFans and steal the content and post it to their own websites. How crazy is that? So you think that you're in control of it? That control is very limited. Once it's posted, technically anybody else can do what they want with that content.
They remind me of earlier when we were talking before we got on, I mentioned TikTok and the silhouette challenge. And that's kind of how it's happening. Someone has figured out a way to get their videos from TikTok and then take the red light off where it really does reveal the person's body, where they can see more. So, they will find a way. They will find a way.
That's the beauty and the treachery of the digital world, right? You can create a lot, you can expand and think outside the box, but
or even I mean, there's these apps that say, hey, put your face on this character or do this and this, and so you're putting your face and hey, haha, I'm in the Shrek movie, that's funny, or but that kind of equipment is used to put young females' face on porn stars, actresses. And so, if someone's asking you for some content and you say, no, I don't want to do that, I'm not comfortable with that, they can just take your face, put it on someone else's body. And that's really freaky. So, and it's very convincing. They're called deep fakes. It's pretty freaky.
And then they can use that content to exploit you.
Exactly.
They can create something, send it to you, and say, "Look what I have of you. I can do anything. If you don't do these things for me, then I'm gonna go ahead and publish it."
Yep, sextortion is real. Sextortion is real. So,
it's so there are so many things that can stem from just one thing that may seem like it's okay, and it really isn't. And our urge, our call out, we're like just begging everybody, those who are listening, to really think about this and consider this around in your community. Is there anybody that you know that may be struggling with something, that may be talking about doing stuff online? Like, have that conversation. You know, we need to start now thinking about protective factors and empowering the community and leaders in the community, teachers, influencers, moms, dads, to really coaches to sort of be willing to step into this. Robin has been doing this. I mean, she's the example here, right? She's the example of someone who is like, this is an issue. I'm going to become an expert in this, and I'm going to go out there. I mean, you've reached out to tens of thousands of youth in this community, making that difference. We are so grateful for you and the work that you're doing. But talk to us a little bit about how to empower the community to step into this, and then also some of the like protective factors.
Yeah. So what we do is education first, educating them on what's happening, increasing the awareness in the community for both youth and adults, so that youth can know how to protect themselves, and then adults can know what's happening with their kids, and then provide some extra education and other ways that they can protect their kids. One of the things we definitely talk about is talking to your children. Just like you're asking them, how was school, how are your friends doing? Ask them about social media. And when they hear things like OnlyFans, like, ask your kids, have you heard about that? What do you think about it? What was your experience with it? Do you know anyone who actually subscribed to that? I mean, just really ask them, Jake, basic questions. Like, you don't have to tell me their names. I just want to know, because I'm puzzled by it. Opening up that conversation. And then also for our young people, we know that we talked about those who are homeless and the couch surfers and all those. Some of those things it's very difficult to control some of that, right? And I hear the feedback too, Hannah. But those who are literally have some type of, their caregivers for a child, is your child, talking to them about the risk of being online, like who they're connecting with, relationships, like talking to them about what a healthy relationship look like. That it doesn't someone who want to convince you to do something that you're uncomfortable with, want to control how you do things. They always got the hookup for you. Keep it a secret. That's one of the things I talk about with kids, especially the little ones. Anyone who wants you to keep a secret, they're probably not someone that you can trust. I'm turning down my bar to see if it helps. It's probably someone that you cannot trust. If they're like, oh, don't tell anyone this. This is between me and you. I trust only you. That sort of deal where all their attention is like on them in that relationship. Like really being careful. The other things parents can do, because OnlyFans and just like any other site, they can be blocked off of the devices that your children are using. We give them those cell phones and those tablets and computers. And so we do have control as parents to set out filter, to set up those filters and put in those parental controls. You can actually, even on the laptop or desktop, you can say, if you're creating, accounts for each individual in the home, where they have to put in the password, you're the administrator over the computer, over that device, you can set it up where it's age appropriate, correct? And if there's a specific website, you can type in a website that you do not want that child to visit. So those are things that we can do on that end as parents, making sure those devices are safe. Will it circumvent every single thing? It will do enough. You know what I'm saying? Even down to YouTube. I'm looking at these videos on YouTube with these young ladies talking about, being a sugar baby or joining OnlyFans. I wouldn't want my daughter looking at that. I don't want anyone to influence her that way. So I have to think about how would I, how can she safely browse YouTube? Because you can set the filters for that as well on YouTube. So just doing those type of things and definitely having those open and honest conversations. Your child may not be participating. They may not know anyone that's participating, but just I am concerned. I heard about this and I want to make sure that you're good. I may not be able to control what other people are doing, but I need to make sure that you're good. Like, really be honest about it. Like, hey, I'm your mom. You know, I have to. My job is to teach you and protect you.
I
So
love that.
yeah, if I don't do it, then I'm not living up to my job, right? And I had to do that and I have boys. So that was one of my things. Like, I know you might get tired of hearing this, but guess what? It's my job to do this. And if I don't, then that makes me a bad mom. And I don't want to be that for you. You know, I want you to be able to say, my mom, my dad told us this, you know. So, yeah, having those conversations and building that self-esteem, like they need to be connected to something other than technology.
Absolutely.
Like, don't let that be the main way of reaching out to people. And I know during this pandemic, it's how we're all reaching out, right? And that's appropriate. But we need something else outside of connecting with people virtually and through our cell phones and, you know, social media and things of that nature. So figure out a way where they can connect in the real world. Show them what real world relationships look like. How do you create a good, strong relationship? You know, so when someone flatters them on the internet, like, you're pretty, oh my God, I love your hair, you know, or I saw your art you put on there, that attention will not overshadow their real life. Like, yeah, okay, my mom, my dad, people, I'm good. You know, it's not something that, you know, it's like, oh, this guy told me I was pretty. No one has ever told me that. You know,
so good.
And let them know that they're special without all of that. They don't need that outside validation. Like, we need to give it to them to help build their self-esteem. Give them a sense of connectedness and purpose. Like, be that building block for them, you know, so that they can feel empowered. You know, we're not going to be we're not the richest household in the world, but look at what we have. We got this house and we're able to sleep here at night. We're warm. You eat every day. That is self-esteem. Getting their doctor's appointment. I mean, literally making sure that they're taking care of their health. You know, if it's mental, taking care of that. If it's physical, taking care of that. That builds self-esteem. Let them know that they're important, whatever is going on with them. You know, so I think that is great. And a lot of our kids, we didn't mention mental health, right? That can be an issue as well. If they're struggling mentally and they're figuring out a way. We talk about how the LGBTQ kids, sometimes they get involved in these relationships because they've been rejected by, you know, the main folk in their world. Well, sometimes young people with emotional conditions, they may also be rejected, if not by their family, by their peers, which means that they need someone else to connect to. So really supporting them in that way. And I hope that makes sense. I said a lot, but there's other things that
so
just
good.
put those filters. Yeah. Okay. So it was good. Okay. I said a whole lot. There's so much back here in my head that I can't share. So
I was like
checking behind your kids. And I know sometimes they say, you know, what about their privacy? Teens need their privacy. Yeah, they may, but honestly, how much money do we pay for these devices to not be able to look at it? I mean, look at your kids' history. Check to see if they've been on OnlyFans site or some other risky site. Will you know all of them? If you don't recognize it, just Google it and check it out and say, hey, I saw this in your history. And I would say make sure they understand that is the norm. Like, set up those expectations, like the expectations that I'm going to check your cell phone, I'm going to check your computer, so that they can know that that's what's going to happen. So it's not a shock to them. And a lot of times they're going to resist because they don't want us to do this. They don't want us looking. You know?
But see, I love how you said, though, that you don't do it behind their back. Don't make it private.
Yes.
Tell them this is part of the agreement. This is part of, you know, and because what if you keep it from them? What if you find something? Now what? You're going to sit down with them and be like, okay, well, I didn't tell you this. I was secretly following you, checking your phone, and I saw this message and it concerned me. But they're like, you lost it. What? You did this behind my back? Like, what else are you doing behind my back? You know what I mean? So I think that's such an important point that you brought up, that you were like, you know, you've got to set the expectation. You got to let them know straightforward and be honest with them. Just like when you're saying, it's my job as a parent to do this. I'm concerned. I don't understand this. I've heard about this app. I heard that this happened. I just want to know. Having those open conversations. But I love the fact that you were saying, like, tell them that you're you're going to check all their stuff. Like they need to know that. I think that's really powerful right there.
So what about when you do find, as a parent, you do find like that they've been watching these porn sites?
Yes.
How do you even have that conversation?
Like, that could be a tough, and I was just thinking about that. You know, if you ask the question, have you been on Fans Only? You know, our reaction sometimes is just what it is, right? Sometimes it just comes out. But if you can pause for a minute, you know, I remember asking my son, this is a public platform, so I don't talk about it too much. But I remember asking him when he was in high school, had anyone sent him a sexting picture? And I would like to have heard the answer no, but he was honest. He was like, yeah. And I, you know, for that minute, I was like, what? You know, but I was like, okay, what did you do with it? Because that's the deal. What did you do with that? You know? He said, well, you always said delete it and not send it to anyone else, you know, and maybe tell the person not to send that to me again. And that's what I did. Now, I didn't want to ask the question like, well, who was she? Because I spent a lot of time at the schools. So I probably know her, you know what I'm saying? And so I was like, okay, so that's when you pull back, because do I really want to know her? I don't want to go up to the school and looking at this child thinking, wow, she said my kid a sexting picture. So you really have to think about the fallout, you know, because you don't want to push them away, because once that wall goes up, it's hard to get it back down. So even if you have to correct them, you want, okay, so what happened when you did this? How did it make you feel? Are you okay? Like, what are the risks? Like, you know, if there's a risk there, are you okay? I need to know. When you log on to Fans Only, like, how are you paying for this? Or, you know, why? What made you go there? You know, I'm sorry, OnlyFans. What made you go there? Because honestly, they're watching. I don't want to generalize it, but a lot of them are watching porn. They're going to find it. They're going to seek it out. Before Facebook and Instagram, you know, took it off their site, you know, there was a such thing as Insta porn and Facebook porn, and you can just scroll through the videos and there it is. You know, you have a choice to watch it or just keep scrolling, right?
Unfortunately, in today's world, if you don't have those healthy conversations about sexual intimacy with your children, then pornography is going to be that teaching tool for them. And I think we all know how dangerous that could be. Yeah.
And it needs to be a part of the sex talk. Like, don't say don't do it. It needs to be a full conversation about sex and sexuality, how people express themselves with sex, you know, that porn does exist. You know, that sexting is a thing. We need to talk about all of these things when we have the sex talk, age appropriately. Like, you're not going to talk to a 10-year-old about it too much unless you discover. And I have had friends and people that I know of who have discovered that their kids have been watching porn on a device that they purchased. And it's like, okay, so don't blame the kid, you know, because you could have put filters in, right? So think about that. And then just say, hey, you know, well, now we need to do something, because explain why it's not appropriate, why it's not healthy, right, Hannah? Why it's not healthy. And then say, well, I am going to set filters because you should not be watching this, or I don't prefer that you don't watch this, you know, so.
Right. And it's a conversation that you have over and over again, you know. I mean, we started having these discussions with our 13-year-old son. He's turning 14 in a couple of months. And you repeatedly have these conversations, you know. I mean, even the other scary part is saying, like, you know, when you see this, not if, when you see this, you may like it. Right. And what do you do with that? You know, and that conversation of, okay, you may like it and you may be drawn to that. You're not a bad person if you are. Right, I'm not trying to tell you that, you know, you're the only one that actually like it. Most people don't. So, you know, this is drawing. It draws you in. So what do you do with that? You know, and know that you're healthy and you're good and you're okay. But what is pornography? What can it do to you? Why is it what it is, and why do we want to prevent it, and how do we redirect ourselves out of that? You know, like, how do we walk ourselves out of that?
I like that so much, because the body reacts naturally. Like, they need to know that that's a natural part of your body and how it responds. And so it's not so demonized in that sense, you know, where they won't feel like, you hear kids get really scared and they break down and cry because they watched it, and now they feel like, oh, I need to tell my parents. but they feel so guilty, so to help them to understand that this is a natural part of development, sex and sexuality, but, when it's appropriate, like make sure they understand appropriate behavior.
I want to show you guys a real quick resource. So Fight the New Drug. Hannah and I are super big fans of Fight the New Drug. They have on their website a conversation blueprint to talk about porn. And so, Kendra, thank you. Yeah. So you can, who do you want to talk with? My romantic partner, my child. Okay, so my child, continue. And you can select, all these, who you're talking with. And then it just takes you through talking about it, preparing, how to prepare yourself before the talk, the blueprint, it lays out the kind of things that you should touch on throughout, how to start it, how to initiate the conversation. So this is a really great tool if anyone. All right, I'm done. Thanks, Kendra.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
I love that.
Is such a key. That is, the Fight the New Drug is such a great resource. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Robin is such a great resource. I am so impressed. Like we just like, hey, what are things that parents can do and what? And she was just like, bam, 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 bam. Do this. And
I was like coming out of my seat. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You ladies are funny. Good. Yeah. So.
I also want to mention to people too, so the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, if you are to ever experience any kind of harassment, exploitation, sextortion, any kind of thing, their National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has a cyber tip line that you can make those reports to, and they also have a phone number. So you can make those reports as well.
And in the state of Michigan, we have the OK to Say, which started out as a bullying platform, but honestly, they're reporting a lot of the things that we're sharing. So that's another, like a more local, if they want to start there, but definitely the Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
Yeah. And, we put a lot of information out there. We want you guys to just sit with it and process it and think about it, check out the resources. But we're just so glad that you guys could join us. Robin, man, thank you again. Emily, you rock. I mean, these discussions are so much fun. I always look forward to being able to do a Cup of Hope with you, every month. And so I just want to say thank you again. And please, if you can, share a Cup of Hope with someone today. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, ladies, and thank you, everyone, for attending today's Cup of Hope panel. We do appreciate your time and hope you found it valuable. If you're interested in more, be sure to reference the links that we typed and pasted into the chat. On behalf of Hope Against Trafficking and the Michigan Abolitionist Project, thank you so much for joining us today. Have a great rest of your day, and be sure to pencil in our next episode for March 3rd at noon.